Welcome to SF Commercial Property Conversations with Bruce Bean, where Bay Area investments meet expert insights. Get ready to unlock the strategies of commercial real estate success.
So today I'm very happy and pleased to be introducing you to Nima Moridi. You'll have to correct me if I'm right or wrong about that, Moridi. So I'm just happy to have you here. And we've been talking for a little while, and I can see that you have some very interesting stories to go through. So I'd love to hear a little history about how you got into commercial real estate.
Yeah, well, hey, Bruce, I'm so grateful for you having me on. Thank you so much. And for the folks that are tuning in, you'll probably notice some moving background here in my truck. In San Mateo, right, driving down Highway 101, we know how that can be like a parking lot this time of day. I thought it would be the perfect opportunity for us to chat, just keeping it super lively, no scripts, as authentic as we can be. So a little bit more about myself. So grew up in San Jose, born and raised here in the Bay Area. I come from a multi-generational real estate family. My father's been working in residential real estate for 35 years, and I've been doing it full-time for 10 years. I mentioned the full-time part because I technically got licensed when I was 18. The reason why I got a real estate license when I was a senior in high school is because I would help my father with his business during the summer breaks prior to, even my adulthood, helping him with things like bulk mail and his taxes and making flyers and things of that nature. Now, with a real estate license, you can actually talk about certain aspects in real estate that you couldn't address if you didn't have a license. So I thought it would behoove me to go and get this license to help my father as a licensed agent and also do open houses and stuff like that. So that's really how I got started in the business.
But your family comes from Iran, is that what you said?
That's right. Yeah. So my parents are very, very outspoken. And that's probably why we got into the business that we did, right? We're fairly extroverted. They were always trying to champion human rights, and especially my father became really big into activism with humanitarian causes in Iran. And, when the revolution happened, when the Shah of Iran was overthrown in 1979, early 1979, he stayed in Iran, and they tried to see what would happen to the country. And obviously it took a turn for the worse when the hostage crisis happened, and, the rest is history. I've had family who have been jailed. My mom's sister was killed, unfortunately, by this regime. So my parents fled the country independently of one another. They didn't know each other there, and they met here in California, and that's how I was born over here. I'm so grateful for this.
How did they meet? That sounds like a curious story.
Yeah. And Bruce, as we were talking when the mics were firing up, I got some stories for you, my friend. So, my father worked at a gas station, and that's why, by the way, on a tangent, why I love this country so much, and why my father always stands for the national anthem, and why he loves this country so much as well. These are things that he instilled in me because I was fortunate enough of being born here. When you come from a place like he did, and you come to a place like this and see what he was able to create, which we'll definitely talk about, there's really no other country like this on earth. But to answer your question, my father was born in Iran. He moved out over here. He was working at a gas station. That was his first job. So he would work at the car wash during the day, and in the evening he would work the till. He'd work the cashier. Right across the street from current Santana Row property, where that is, right across where the 280 junction was. There was a gas station there, and that's where he worked. And There was a guy that came in with the old school, diesel Mercedes Benz. And the guy said he does real estate. And my dad was like, I would love to do that, And just like what you probably see in the movies, he got the real estate book. He didn't know a lick of English. I joke with him even after 40 years. I'm like, you still don't know English, but don't tell me that. But prior to coming to this country, he resided in Spain for about a year. So he picked up Spanish. So he got the Spanish version of the real estate principles textbook. And that's how he studied the material. 35 years in the business now. The first year, so proud of him to say, Bruce, that he sold 35 properties.
Oh my gosh. First year.
First year.
Oh wow.
And I'm proud to humbly say that I say the Moridi team has sold over 1,600 properties here in Silicon Valley since 1988, but the vast majority of that, maybe 1,350, is my father, just my father over the years.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So
He's
I'm
a real
very
mover
grateful.
and shaker.
He's
Going
big
from
time. Yeah. Yeah.
pumping gas to closing deals.
Pumping gas. Yeah. I like that. Pumping gas to closing deals. You know, the guy's been the number one agent in the city of Santa Clara since like the mid 90s every single year. You know, no one in its history has sold more homes than he did. And I try to walk what I say. You know, I do a lot of martial arts. I teach and train, and they always teach you to kind of be humble. So I always have this what's the word? Like, it's like a double-edged sword for me where I'm so proud of him. I want to talk about his accolades, but I always got to be humble at the same time.
Yeah. No, that's a dual-edged sword, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so then you decided to go to Cal Berkeley, right?
Yes. So first person in my family to graduate from college. You know, my parents moved over here. They gave me the opportunity to study. I decided to go to Berkeley pursuing pre-med sciences. I always had that sales real estate background, and I didn't come from a family that really pushed you, like you have to be a lawyer or a doctor type of deal. My dad was just like, you got to work every day, so do something that you can be passionate about, but you can make enough money to take care of your family. In a nutshell, that's pretty much what he told me. I always had an interest because I've been wearing glasses. Now I have the LASIK corrective surgery, but I've started wearing glasses as a second grader. And I was really fascinated by genetics and heredity and why I had glasses, you know, from second grade, but somebody else would never need glasses, right? So I was fascinated by science, by this, and that's what kind of led me to think I would want to study medicine. And you know, I graduated from Berkeley. I took my MCAT, the medical college admission test, you know, got into school. I went there for a semester and I'm like, okay, this is a little challenging. I thought it was going to be hard, but not this hard. It was very, very challenging, you know, and then they do a job of like kind of weeding out the people that, you know, that may not have the passion for it. And then after a semester, I realized that although I am interested in medicine, maybe medical school wasn't the right path for me. You know, especially working with a lot of the cadavers, that was something that was a little bit more challenging. And yeah, so I left that in 2012.
Oh yeah. No, I can understand completely. I've heard stories of working with the cadavers, and that doesn't always go over that well with some people. So
Yeah, no.
yeah, and quite frankly, when you go into the medical business, you have to dive deep into that world, so to speak. So I can understand where you'd bail out. So then you decided to go into your family business, it sounds like.
Yeah. So after that, you know, I always knew real estate. So I decided to start working with my father. I joke with him and say that he tried to recruit me for a long time and I would turn him down, but it was really more like I thought maybe we would clash and I don't know how I would be working with my father. But hey, blind faith, I made the jump and I started working in residential real estate. And, you know, my dad is like the who's who, you know, in residential real estate in the South Bay. And I know this because I've been working with him for so many years during the summers, right? So everyone's like, do you know that your dad's great? He's this and that. So when I started in the industry, I thought that I would get that red carpet, you know, right at the door, and I would just walk in, and people would be like, "Right this way, Mr. Moridi. Here's your desk." Right, and then someone would bring me coffee, all this stuff, and I just showed up. Nobody knew who I was. I didn't even have a desk. My dad set me up in a conference room. He gave me an old laptop to use, one of his older ones, you know, that he was probably going to throw away or try to give it to, you know, Salvation Army. And there was a pen and a piece of paper, and he just said, "Get to it." And I said, "What's this?" And he said, you gotta start making calls. I'm like, I don't know what to say. He's like, oh. And then he went and got a book scripts, right? From Mike Ferry, 1990 sales
Oh
training.
wow.
Yeah. And because he's been working with Mike Ferry since the mid 90s. And he said, here, this book right here. So I literally had to just cold call people and say, hey, have you thought about selling? Do you have any questions about the market? Even though, to be frank with you, Bruce, I didn't even have that much knowledge about the market at that point. But that's how he started me, right? And then in the afternoons, I'd go door knocking.
Oh my gosh. Wow. There was no red carpet there at all. It was like,
Mm.
here, you just start out and go. And
Yeah,
yeah, the lessons of hard knocks. There you
yeah,
go. Well, so
definitely the
then
lessons.
you built up and you worked for 10 years and went through the pandemic and decided to go into commercial real estate.
Right. Yeah. And the residential real estate was always something that I loved. I loved helping people buy their homes, you know. The commercial real estate is a whole nother juggernaut. I mean, the different asset classes, what goes into it, the underwriting, all of these things that don't occur in residential real estate. I'm fascinated by real estate, shelter, right? And just how important shelter is. I mean, you just mentioned the pandemic, especially around that time. I mean, we're so grateful in the real estate industry. We did very well for ourselves during the pandemic because a lot of people just realized how important shelter is. A, because of a global pandemic, and B, when they had to work from home or in the hybrid models, they needed that extra space. So these types of things just increase my passion for real estate. And commercial real estate is something that requires a lot more skill. And it was a challenge for me that I really wanted to get into. So when the market slowed down, when the rates started going up, that's a time when I'm like, I'm going to add this to my offerings. And that's what I've been doing for the past 2 years.
So you're doing leasing, you said, and you're doing sales. What you don't do property management.
No, no. So I don't do property management at this point. Yes, it is sales. It's tenant rep, landlord rep. And I obviously know residential real estate very well. So the whole multifamily aspect is something that's really interesting to me because somebody who has been selling, as I like to call it, heads in beds for more than a decade, I thought that this would be the perfect thing for somebody like me, Bruce. And that's really, at this point, I'm a generalist, but ideally, I want to get into that multifamily sector because I've already sold a lot of multifamily properties in my career. But the interesting thing between residential and commercial multifamily is residential multifamily is up to 4 units, right? So your duplex,
Right,
triplex,
right,
fourplex, you can still get a conventional, regular loan with that, like just like a single
right.
family. 5 units or more, right? Then you're going to get into commercial. Then you need to have a commercial lender and stuff like that. So that's really the distinction. It's just the amount of doors. But
Yeah.
there's still rent rolls, underwriting, all those things that go into process, which I've done so much of. So I just thought that it would be a great transition for me.
Well, have you gotten onto the ownership side of multifamily?
No, but funny story. My father recently 1031 tax exchanged into a fourplex in Santa Clara. He originally had a condo in Sunnyvale that he bought in 1992. And for any of the listeners who are not familiar with a 1031, or maybe have heard of it but don't know really what it is, what you're doing is essentially deferring your capital gains taxes. You're not eradicating them, you're just kicking the can. In the industry, we have a phrase that we say swap till you drop. You're just going to keep swapping those properties, right, until you pass away. And
Yeah.
this is something that my father did, right? He purchased a condo in 1992 in Sunnyvale, and then he bought a single family property in Santa Clara, and then he recently 1031 exchanged that into a fourplex in Santa Clara. And yeah, so get this, the guy so good with numbers. He's able to sell a single family home for $1,580,000 just north
Wow.
of Monroe. And then he 1031s this into a fourplex that was just under 1.7. So the
Perfect.
delta was really like $100,000 that he put on top of that, and he made it into four units. So yeah, so I was there underwriting the whole thing for him. Um, a lot of my CCIM, which stands for Certified Commercial Investment Member. I've done all my coursework for this, and I'm working on the portfolio to go and take the exam for this designation. It's a very coveted designation in commercial real estate, and about 30% of commercial brokers have it.
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic designation. So, yeah, good luck with that. And please, Flynn, it's for those listeners that may want to know more about 1031 exchange, go back and listen to the Jeff Lowenstein podcast because he's a 1031 facilitator. So it's a very interesting, complex approach to avoiding paying taxes right away. So kick the can, as
Yeah.
you say, down the road. Eventually you have to pay, but not right away. So that's all very fantastic and good information. So this was a very good interview, Nima. Is there some other things you'd like to mention along the way?
Yeah, right now it's a really interesting time in real estate, on the residential side and on the commercial side. As they say, real estate is hyper local. Right now in the Bay Area, Silicon Valley areas, let's just say Santa Clara and San Mateo counties, the AI boom has just skyrocketed residential real estate. I mean, I was seeing people, the amount of traffic that I was getting on my open houses the first quarter of this year was reminiscent of what I was seeing in 2021. However, the rates are more than double than they were in 2021. People would be asking me why that's the case. When, Bloomberg, right? Wall Street Journal, they love to talk about the Magnificent Seven. When you think about NVIDIA, Broadcom, Meta, Apple, right? Um, Google, Alphabet, they're all in our backyard. And those stock valuations, when they were skyrocketing, the RSUs, the reserve stock units that those tech employees get, were just like burning a hole in their pocket. So they were liquidating those stocks. They were using them for down payment. I had a client at Meta. He had been at Meta since 2017. He liquidated $700,000.
Wow.
That's just him. He's married, right? And his wife is also an engineer at a different company. But they take this money, and then all of a sudden, that $2 million home that we're just like, oh my God, I can't believe the homes are this price. They're putting like 50% down in a lot of cases, right? So the residential market just exploded
Oh
with
my
Chat
God.
GPT. Yeah. And now how that affects commercial real estate in San Francisco, OpenAI, Anthropic, Scale AI, some of these companies have subleased a lot of space. So it's been really helping with the vacancy rate in the Soma and downtown San Francisco areas, which has been really nice, right, for that. But commercial overall is still fairly slow.
Yeah.
It's not a need, right? It's not your shelter. It's not your primary home. It's more of a want than a need.
Well, when remote work came along, that kind of destroyed the whole office market for some time. But as you say, it's
Yeah,
starting to bounce back a little bit. So hopefully that trend will continue. It was very tough for some landlords in the big cities to take all
yeah,
their vacancies and do things with them. And a lot of
yeah.
buildings went back into foreclosure, and some people with a lot of cash were able to buy some buildings at very good rates. So,
They were, yeah. It's definitely some opportunities. You're
yeah,
absolutely right, Bruce. And
yeah.
even today, just this week, there was this past week, three buildings in Oakland went into foreclosure. And for a long time, Oakland, was labeling itself as, hey, we're cheaper than San Francisco. It was almost like the Brooklyn to Manhattan. And a lot of people were moving out over there, right? But when that hybrid work came, I mean, that they really took it on the chin as well. So it's really interesting to see how things will shape up, right, with um, this new norm that we're in. But Class A office space is still pretty popular, right? With the really nice buildings like the One Vanderbilt in New York City and a few of them in San Francisco. They still have decent vacancy, like in the high 80%, 85% range. So that's promising. But it'll be really interesting to see. We live in a very interesting area, very interesting time, and how it affects real estate. And I got to watch myself because I can just talk for hours about these things.
No, that's good. I
Yeah.
love it. No, that's great. Well, if people would like to get a hold of you, Nima, how would they do that?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn. My name is Nima Moridi, spelled Nimamoridi. I'm on Instagram as well. You can find me there. My handle is the Ninja Realtor, and one of my trading partners years ago gave me that because I'm really big into martial arts and real estate as well. So those two things are really much like most of my life. So I thought it would be very fitting to have this. So yeah, you can connect with me on all social media. I love chatting about these things and connecting with people.
So just a final question. Are you a black belt or what kind of martial arts do you practice?
Yeah, I got a black belt in Taekwondo many moons ago. Right now, I'm much more into boxing and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I have a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is like one step from black. I've been doing that consistently for a decade now. In December, it'll be 10 years that I've been doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and so I'm getting there. It's probably the longest martial art to get out to achieve black belt. So that's been something that I've been really working towards, and yeah, it's helped me tremendously, both mentally and physically in my life.
Well, it's also a great workout, as I understand.
Oh yeah, it's great. Sweating buckets, and it teaches you a lot of humility, There's so much, especially being in Silicon Valley, when someone's always looking for that next valuation, we say, fake it till you make it. There's something, Bruce, about when you're on the mat, it doesn't matter if you make 50 grand a year or $5 million a year. We're all dressed the same. We're going to go on the mat. And then, you know what I mean? So you can't fake that. And it's something that's very humbling for me. It really helps me in my life.
It's a even playing field, so to speak.
Yes. Yeah. Amen to that. Yeah. Well said.
Well, with that, I will look forward to talking to you again, and I'm sure some people will be coming to you to get a hold of you. So thank you so much for participating. This was a great interview.
Yeah, my pleasure. And if you ever need a panel, if you need somebody for real estate, I'd love to jump on and talk to your viewers and some of the other guests that you've had. Yeah, that would be fun.
That would be fantastic. Okay.
All right.
Talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, Bruce. Have a great day.
That's a wrap on today's journey through the SF commercial real estate scene. Ready to share your story? Visit sfcommercialconversations.com/guest. Your insights could lead the next conversation.